It's the power that I gave it to come into my head and tell me I wasn't good enough, you're not good enough. After 17 years of being my dad, he was just like, you're not even my daughter. Like, I want nothing to do with you.
Nobody wanted Sophia, and that hurt. And then she told me, you're the reason that me and your dad are getting a divorce. She didn't want me, right? But God did.
And it was just like, I remember God just telling me, like, I'm right here.
And I started finding my value in him, and that I am a child of God, and that I am worthy of him, and that I am enough for him, and everybody else didn't matter.
You don't belong here. So if you don't belong and you feel that, good.
Like, you are literally like the person that I never had, because no one ever asked me if I was okay.
Like, it literally was like a Mexican JoJo Siwa. Like, that's literally like how I was. So
So, and she looks at me and she's like, oh. And I was like, what do you mean, oh? And she's like, we apologize for the long yap sesh.
That is crazy. What's going on, guys? Today is episode 3 of the pod. Today we have our special guests. Well, today is me, Gino, and our special guest, Lila and Sophie.
Hi.
hi,
Which one's Lila and which one's Sophie?
I'm Lila, and I'm Sophie.
And together we're... I'm just kidding.
But yeah, we brought him on to talk about dealing with abandonment issues, depression, anxiety, and that's something, you know, a lot of people deal with out there, and it's a heavy topic. And so before we get into it, I'll just pray for us as we get into this, and for anybody watching, like, if you're dealing with this, it's comforting to know that God is there with you, God is there for you, God is there to comfort you, and that if you can cry out to him, and you know he'll hear you. So, but yeah, before we get into it, we'll pray. This is Sophia and Lila, and we hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for this podcast and for bringing on Sophie and Lila to come on here and talk. And I pray that you bless our time, and I pray for anybody watching. I pray that you're with them, and that you're able to speak to them through us, through everything that they watch and that they hear, and pray that your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay. So, you guys have anything you want to say about yourselves? Just to, like, introduce yourself.
I'm Lila. I'm 19. And this is my cousin.
Oh. I'm Sophie. My parents hold a Bible study here. Well, it's more like a church. So, that's like pretty much it.
But yeah, they're on their own walks with Christ. They're searching and, you know, trying to grow closer to God in their own path and their own walk. And so it's amazing to see, and you can see how God's working in them. And so that's why they've come here to, you know, talk and hopefully relate to some of you guys out there. So, okay. So we'll start with, I guess, how did you come to know Christ for yourself? Just that initial, like, coming to know Jesus for yourself.
So I was raised Christian. I grew up in a Christian household. But that didn't mean I had my own relationship. It came later, probably, like, I made a decision to, like, give my life and to get baptized when I was a freshman, like my freshman year. And that's really when I was like, okay, like, this is real. And then, like, obviously I would still mess up, but I would say, like, this past March was probably when I was fully like, okay, like, I'm just done with all sin. Like, I was like, okay, like, God, like, I don't want this anymore. And that's when I was, like, really, like, serious about him. Because I guess I knew him my whole life, but I didn't know him, like, personally. And I didn't, like, care enough to really, like, give my life to him until this March. So.
Yeah.
So kind of similar story for me. I think I grew up in a household where we knew he was real, but we were like your typical lukewarm Christians at Christmas, Easter, when everything's just like not going the way you go, it's like, oh God, like please help us. But and anything else, it was just no, like it was no. And for me, it was I live with my grandma and my mom, and they almost made me feel like everything that I did wasn't right. And it was like if it was too much, it was too little, it was I wasn't enough, it was, well, you're doing it wrong, it was, well, everything this. And so naturally, like, and it was also forced onto us in a way of like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And like any kid, when you're being told no, like, or do it, you're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And so naturally, like, I was like, I know I'm not going to do it, because the more that you force me to do it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so recently, leaving my house, moving to college, that was when I first like encountered him, and I was like this is like this is, bless you,
Bless you.
like this is what needed to happen, was I needed to get out of my house to see him, to have my own walk with him, because it was almost like I was trying to walk with him, but someone always had something to say about the way that I was going. And it was like, okay, so I remember in my head right before I left, I was like, God, just wait for me. I was like, just wait, because once I get out, like, I'm going to figure it out. I was like, but you have to wait for me to get out. I was like, don't hate me. I was like, just wait, you know? And the moment I did, it was like my roommate, Rylan, I love you. My roommate, she brought me to everything. I started asking questions. I started, she started talking to me about the Bible. I started, like, she was the one who brought me to everything. And I recently just got baptized on Easter of this year. And it was like, because she was there with me, and in times where like I was just lost, she always like helped guide me out of the way, and was like, okay, like, this is what the world says to do, but like, here's the Bible, here's what this
Yeah.
says to do. And I never had that, because at home it was all the world, it was, everything was just world, world, world. And so when I had someone like refer me to the Bible, it was like, okay. And so ever since then, like, I got baptized, and I've just been trying to walk right, and just show my siblings, my family, that you need to do that,
Yeah.
and so
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think like once you realize that it's not a religion, it's a relationship. Like once you take that into heart, it really changes your view on life, because a lot of people are just like, "Oh, you're Christian? Okay, that's cool." But once you realize like, "No, I have a relationship with Jesus." It's not just this title. I have a relationship with him. Like I know him for myself. It's not my pastor's faith, it's not my mom's faith, it's my faith. So once you take that into the heart, like your whole view on life changes. And it's a step I would encourage a lot of people, everybody to take. So yeah.
Okay, so dealing and struggling with abandonment, anxiety, depression, in your life, where do you think that where does that break down to? As much as you guys are comfortable sharing, just to so everybody watching.
okay. For me, abandonment is like a very like, it's kind of like an umbrella. Like, it's just like a very topic, because
Yeah.
I feel like it falls into a lot of subcategories. So for me, it was never like a definite turn your back and walk away. It was
Yeah.
just subtle things that almost made me feel like I was never chosen. I was never good enough. And so that stemmed from my biological dad, who, since I was little, drinking, partying, going out, all that stuff. My parents were young when they had me. I think my mom was like 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what 20-year-old? I'm 19. Like, imagine me pregnant right now, about to have a kid. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, And so, I feel like my parents weren't ready to have me, like, and they weren't ready, and I think the abandonment comes from my dad, because I mean, your dad is supposed to be like your first love, like a girl's first love, like a dad's love. And I feel like I never had that, because in times where I would give him that chance, he would always pick something else, someone else over me.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, that little girl that was just like waiting for my dad. And so for a long time, that's how I lived, was I felt like I wasn't good enough, and like that fear of like abandonment, that I wasn't good enough, that people were just going to walk away because my dad did. So he always chose someone over me. He would, okay, I'm going to pick you up at this time, and then wouldn't show up. And then I was like, okay. And then, like,
Yeah.
I'm just that little girl sitting by that window waiting for him to show up, and he never did. Or, okay, you're going to come see me this weekend. And then he would, leave me with my aunts. Or he would just, it was like just that little pieces of abandonment, that it wasn't this big, like, boom moment. It was more like, as I got older,
Yeah.
I could look back and I could just see pieces of me that were taken as I got older. And it was like it all stemmed from that. And so I definitely went through a lot of stuff with him, and I stopped talking to him because I realized that it was just a toxic relationship at 14 before my freshman year. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with you anymore, because I realized that, like, that relationship, it was more of a, you're my father, but you're not my dad,
Yeah.
and just because you're my father, like, and you made me, doesn't give you a right to me, and so I had to cut that off, and it took a lot. It took
Yeah.
a lot. And then, my parents got married and then divorced when I was 6 months. So I never grew up in a home where, like, mom and dad, So I
Yeah.
met the new man that my mom was with. He took on the role of dad from 6 months to about 17 years old. So growing up with him was very odd, I think, for Hispanic households, especially old Hispanic households. You're very used to, like, the man not doing anything. Like, the man works and that's all he needs to do. Like, the women cook, clean, typical, like, 19 something, like what?
Yeah.
And that's how it was at my house. And I tried very hard to have a relationship with him, and we did have a good relationship, but he always chose drinking over us, over me. And, like, I had already lost my dad to drinking. And so my stepdad, when he came into the picture, I was like, okay, like, I have a dad, like, I'm okay. And then as I got older, he started choosing drinking. He started choosing other things. And I was just like, okay, here we go again. And I do have 3 younger siblings who, they look up to me. They look at me. They feed off of me, so I would have to hold it together. And recently, they did split. And he turned his back on me. And this was the, like, moment, because that was, like, after 17 years of being my dad, he was just like, you're not even my daughter. Like, I want nothing to do with you. So then that's, 2 dads gone. And so that, just like that abandonment of just like being scared, I guess, of men, that they're just going to leave, because you were in my life for 17 years. The dad who was supposed to be, like, my first love didn't give me that. So then I guess I lived, like, the rest of my life just being angry with everyone, because my heart had become so guarded, and I got filled with just rage. It was anger, like, and it was bad. Like, I know that dealing with stuff that my dad used to do, that, like, opened the door to anxiety, to depression. So I was, like, 6 years old, like, diagnosed with anxiety, because there were little things like the doorbell ringing, I'd freak out, because my dad would show up. He liked to show up unannounced. Seeing his car, I would, walk home from school, and I'd see his car, and I'd freak out. It wasn't his car, it was just a car, and I'd freak out, and you couldn't get me to move. The trash can, like, big dumpsters, I was scared of those for the longest time, because my dad put me in one as it was coming down the street. And he's like, okay, he's like, you're gonna get taken. He left me there until it was, like, in the house before me. And so every time I heard the trash can, I'd start freaking out. And then loud flushing,
Wait, why did he put you in there to, like, scare you?
because it was funny. Because it was funny to do this to me. Like, little, like, 9-year-old me,
Your
like,
real dad, or?
yes, my bio dad, like, it's funny, so let's ha ha ha, like, let's laugh it off. And I'm like,
The one that, like, crushes the trash?
yes, like the trash cans, like, they pick up the trash can and dump it. Yes.
That is crazy.
And I was, like, terrified. So then after that, I lived with the fear of garbage cans, the trucks, and then loud flushing. Like, somebody's gonna come out and grab you. Like, and so I was scared of the toilet. So, like, I went flush because I was so scared that something was going to come out of the toilet and grab me. Like, there were so many little things that instilled fear in me, little by little, and anxiety. And it was just like my biggest thing that I battled with my entire life was anxiety, was little things would set me off. But back to the abandonment, I was filled with rage, like a lot, because how could a dad not want his daughter? How could a dad still continue to choose something else, someone else, like over and over again? And the thing is, I have a big heart. I have a big heart. And like, I don't mean to say that like, oh, cringy, whatever. Like, I have a big heart, and I would give him chance after chance after chance. And I was sitting there, like, hoping one day, he's going to come to his senses and he's going to be the dad that I have been waiting for him to be. And it, to this day, hasn't happened, you know? So I think I let go of that, of waiting for something that was never going to happen. And then, like I said, my mom brought this new man into my life, and okay, this is dad. Like, this is good. This is good. And then as I got older, I started seeing, like, okay, like, everything is not what I thought it was. You know, I would start seeing things for myself. I was 12, 13, like about 13 years old, and I remember my stepdad. So this is ex-stepdad, everyone. I grabbed his phone, and because it kept buzzing, and I was like, you know, in my head, perfect stepdad, perfect life, like, we're living in a beautiful house, everything's fine, like, he brought me to my favorite sport, to softball, like, everything's good. And it kept buzzing, and I was like, you know what? I picked it up, and it was from some woman, and it was like, oh, I'm so, like, when are you am I gonna see you again? Typical, like, movie cheating scenes. Like, you know, like, where are you? Like, oh, like, and I started reading. I was nosy. I started reading. And I was like, what the, like, that's why you wouldn't come home, you know? Like, because there was another woman. But he was also drinking all the time. So I started living with this anxiety of Friday night, if he wasn't home by, like, 6 or 7, I, like 6 or 7, I start freaking out because I knew that that meant that he was drinking at work. And I was like, because then my mom would get upset, and then all hell would break loose in my house because my mom was mad at my stepdad. And then, like, me being older sister with my 3 siblings, like, I was trying so hard to shield them from everything. And so I was anxious, like, every time, like, I was the glue. I had to fix it. I had to be the one to hold everything together, because if I showed that I was scared, that I was nervous, that anything, my siblings would fall apart. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't put that onto them. So I was their shield. And so to this day, I take everything as much as I can, their pain, their anxiety, their nerves. I want to take it because they shouldn't have to go through that, because I know that I am strong enough to deal with that. But with that came a lot of anxiety, and I couldn't do simple things. Like, I couldn't do simple things. So then I started getting consumed with this fear of, okay, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. You're going to leave. And so with that came the hardening of my heart. Like, walls, like, it was terrible. And I just remember I was like 12, like maybe 11, I think. I was in 5th grade. And I remember, like, I just felt like everyone hated me. Everyone had left me and no one wanted me around. So I would sit in my closet. I'd walk like a closet. I would, you know, there's a box in the corner, and I'd sit on it, and I would hide for hours. And in my head, I'm like, if no one comes looking for me, then that means that I can kill myself, because then no one's gonna care, you know? And I remember, like, I would write letters to people, and they weren't your typical, like, oh, I love you, like, nah. They were, I hate you and you did this to me. That if I kill myself, my blood is on your hands because you did this to me. And I was filled with so much hate, so much rage. And so it was easy for me, like, if you just looked at me wrong, I was already, like, writing your name down in my book and what I was going to do to you, because you hurt me, because people had gone through my life, people that should have been there for me had just time and time again hurt me. And, like, that was where my depression kicked in. Like, what 12-year-old has business talking about that, thinking about that stuff? And then being bullied at school, it was just like, it was never ending. It was never ending. And so I just remember thinking like that. And then after that, it was just like it kind of just went away. And then I got older. And then being in college, dealing with anxiety, dealing with that, just like I'm not good enough. And then my ex-boyfriend, he became a very, 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 very big part of my life because I never had a male in my life that wanted me, that made me feel wanted, and he did. He's my first boyfriend, and he made me feel like he wanted me, like he like even and through all my ugly, even through everything, he still chose me. And so we ended up breaking up, and I just remember like I was the closer I was getting to God, the more I was seeing how much I was idolizing him because he always chose me. He never made me feel like he was walking away from me. And so I started worshiping him because I was just like, even through everything, you still want me, you know? And it was like cuz he was there. And there's so many things that I regret saying to him, doing to him, like especially my words, because I was so filled with hate and rage and just anger that like I would say things to him that like they weren't meant for him, but it was because I didn't deal with anything. I swept everything under a rug. I was fine because I was putting on this facade for everyone like I'm okay. I don't need anything. I'm okay. You know, because I didn't want anyone to know that I was struggling because my siblings are my pride and joy. My siblings are like, I do everything for them because I want them to look at me and be like, that's my sister. Like, you know, and so I didn't want them to know. And so I would just sweep everything under the rug and I'm fine. I'm fine. We're going to get through it. It's okay. But that's what I was taught. That's what I was taught to do. And like that's not good. You should never sweep anything under a rug because that the only thing that happens is it starts building up and then you're just cooked because then you have to deal with it later. So yeah, so with this ex-boyfriend, this is part of my coming to Christ story because I idolized him. He made me feel so chosen. So then the closer I got to God, it was like God was like, that's not true. Like simple things that a normal human should be able to do, I couldn't do by myself. I had to have him on FaceTime, like literal panic attacks if we did not fall asleep on FaceTime because I felt like I couldn't. And it was, he wouldn't talk to me. He would go on mute, turn off his camera, but he would be there. And it was the thought that I knew that he was there that would put me to sleep. And it's like, you know, like, what the, like, go to bed. You know what I mean? Like, and if he fell asleep before me, all hell broke loose. I would start panic attacking. I couldn't breathe. I'd call him like 100 times. And like literally God bless his heart because he taught me so many things about love and what to do and not to do. And it was just like, I truly thank God for him because he put up with me for so long. But like, it all took a toll. Like, of course it would, you know, and it took a toll on me. And when I started, the closer I got to God, he started showing me things that I didn't want to see. Like in Jeremiah, it talks about idols. And it was like, you know, that whole book is about idolization. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Da da da. Like, whatever. Like, God was warning me. He was telling me, you have an idol. And I knew it. I knew it was him. But I was like, I can't lose him. I cannot lose him because I will die. I will die. And I ended up losing him. You know, and for that was a bunch of reasons, but I knew that it was God using me because right after that was I felt so alone. I felt so alone, and I was just like, I'm cooked. I was like, no one's ever gonna want me because if he didn't want me, like this was now what, the third man? Like my dad, ex-stepdad, ex-boyfriend, like everyone just left me, and it was just like I remember God just telling me like, I'm right here. Like I'm right here. And you are still choosing other people. You're still looking to people to worship, to idolize, to be there. And I just remember, like, I was in my room after the breakup, and I just remember, like, Jeremiah. I was like, what is that? So I opened my Bible, and it's talking about, like, the idols and how he has to break you down, but just enough because he's going to rebuild you. And I was just like, okay. I was like, that's what you're doing, is you're breaking me down to build me back up because he had to take this thing away from me for me to realize like you aren't alone, like you have me.
I think
you know, and like he chose me, you know, and like that's one of the verses that I have is like I chose you even when you didn't choose me, you know. And it's like throughout my life I felt like I never belonged. I felt like people were always just outcasting me. I felt like an outcast, and I felt like I was just never good enough for anything. But it's like God's like, okay, you don't belong, like they're right, because you don't belong here. You don't belong to this world. You don't belong here. And it was like I almost felt like I was trying so hard to fit in somewhere and like fit with like these men to make them feel like they wanted me. But I didn't need that. You don't need that. You don't need, like, I don't belong here. And now when people tell me that, I'm like, thank you. Like, thank God that I don't belong here. I don't want to be here. You know, like, yes, like, this is not home. And like, I remember I was so angry because I just wanted to fit in father daughter dances. I was a Girl Scout. Father daughter dances. I would look around and I'm just like, I'm gonna cry. Like, this is terrible. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like, it was just like, why did they have, why didn't I have that, you know? And so that was just like a lot of anxiety. And so going to college, like I said, I got out of my house and it was, God was just like, threw everything, laid out all my cards and was like, you need to work on this. So then my ex-boyfriend got stripped away. So then I was dealing with my anxiety and I was like, okay. And so I remember I called my uncle because I was like, I feel anxious. I couldn't focus. I'm a pre-med student. Like, I don't have time to be crying. I don't have time to be like, you know, and it was just like, okay. I was like, all right, God. I was like, what do you want? I was like, what are you telling me? Because I was pissed because I was just like, I don't have time to be like crying and panicking. And I was like, okay, so what is it? And I remember so clearly it was Matthew 6:34. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow brings its own worries, because I was always so worried about, okay, well, this assignment's due next Friday, and it was like, okay, but you have an assignment due tonight, so why are you worried about the assignment that's due next week?
Yeah.
You know? And it was just like, because no one ever chose me, I was like, fine, I choose myself. So then I put all this, like, all these, I don't know, like, what would you call it?
Pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, I put a lot of pressure. I held myself to very, very high standards. So I graduated with a 4.5 GPA because I didn't want to deal with my stuff. So I would just bury myself in softball, in school, in medicine, in like over the summer, like because there was no school and I had nothing to distract myself, I would practice my handwriting. I would research animals. I would research surgeries. Like, I would do anything to just learn, because the moment that I stopped meant that I had to deal with my stuff. And so going to college, it was like I was trying to distract myself, and like I couldn't do that because I would get panic attacks like every other day, just panic attack. And like my roommates were like, what is wrong with this girl? Like, why is she like, because I would, like, I can't breathe, you know? And they're like, what, are you okay? Like, you know, like, what are they supposed to do? I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And that's like, and God is just like, stop, just stop, you know? Because part of like the abandonment was like, okay, then I'm going to control everything that I can control. So I became very controlling with everything, with everyone. And like, I tried to keep everyone right there, right next to me, because then if I was the one controlling everything, then they couldn't leave, you know? And it was like, and that's where my control came from, and my hate and my anger and everything. And so college was a very big, like, eye-opening thing for me, because I just, like, he laid it all out, you know? And there were times at night where, like, it was just me crying by myself, and I was like, okay, God, like I'm here, like I'm ready, like you need to take this away. And so last August, I was like, you know what? I know who I am. I'm not a failure. I'm not a loser. I'm not going to have missing assignments. I'm not going to fail classes. Like, I knew who I am, and I knew that that was the enemy trying to get into me, trying to tell me, you're not good enough. You can't do it. You're going to sit here and waste your freaking 2 hours crying instead. Like, no, I'm not. I'm going to get up. I'm going to study. I'm going to pass my exam. And I was like, that's who I am, because that's who God made me. He made me someone who, when I set my mind to something, it's going to happen, you know? And I learned that there was a good thing and a bad thing in that. The bad was that I was very, if I set my mind to something, I didn't care who I took down with me, was that it was going to get done, you know? And that was the bad in it. And that was me just blind, just like rage, just going towards what I wanted. And I realized, like, okay, I can't do that.
Yeah.
you know, because there's people around me. There's people are watching me, you know, like my siblings, they watch everything that I do. And so, you know, I just like in my anxiety since I talked with God and I was like, I talked to God like he's like my friend. Like I'm, and
Yeah.
that's like, you know, like I'm just like, all right, bro, like, ouch. Like, you know, because he'll like, he speaks to me through scripture. So when I'm freaking out and he's like, calm down, I'm like, "Oh, fine. You know, because that's how he talks to me. I talk to him, he's my friend because I didn't, like you said, like it's a relationship. He's like the same way you and I are talking,
Yeah.
I will start talking to him, you know, because you should be able to do that. You should be able to talk to him like he's your friend, he's your father, he corrects you. And I hated when people corrected me because I was so controlling. Because if someone was telling me that I was wrong, it meant that like they were gonna leave, you know,
Yeah.
that like they were catching on to something. And so God was like, no, like it's okay to be corrected because that means that, like I love you, you know?
That's
And I was like, okay. So, yeah. And so ever since then, I haven't, since last August, no panic attacks, no anxiety. I got through my semester, A's and B's, like passed my exams. Like I had no more anxiety. And I just remember my roommate, she told me, she's like, anxiety doesn't exist. And I was like, I looked at her and I was like, I was clinically diagnosed with it at 6 years old. Like, don't tell me it doesn't exist. And she was Christian. She was Christian. And she's like, no. She's like, it's not that it doesn't exist. She's like, it's that you're letting it overcome you. Like, you
Yeah.
are giving it that right. You are giving it that, like, power to overcome you. And I looked at her and I was like, what? I was like, what does that mean? You know?
I was just talking about that because like anxiety and depression, stuff like that. Like I told my friends that it doesn't exist, and they're like, they looked at me, they're like, "What are you on?" And I was like, "Dang." And yes, like what your friend said, how it exists, but when you take that title, it's like you're just accepting it. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like, I have depression, I have anxiety, and that's who I am. I'm gonna die with it. I'm gonna take my anxiety and depression to the grave because my doctor said it. And you don't want to just like be like, Jesus, my doctor says I have anxiety, take it away. I don't want this anxiety. Take it away. Because you just need to have faith that Jesus and God, they can take your anxiety away. They can do it. He can do it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, he's the greatest doctor. He's
Yes.
the healer.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter, like, what the doctors say that you have, like, you know? So, yeah.
Like your doctor went to school for 4 years and they're saying you have anxiety.
Like, yeah, and it all comes from within. It's the power that I gave it to come into my head and tell me I wasn't good enough, you're not good enough. Like it was just that. And I still struggle with that. The whole like, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And it wasn't until I was just like, shut up. Like, stop. Like, that's not true because I am. Because look at where I am today. I wouldn't be here where I am today if I wasn't good enough. I wouldn't have graduated with a 4.5 if I wasn't good enough. You know?
And I think more than just like what you can do, I think it's also remembering too, like Jesus paid Jesus bought bought us at a price.
Yeah.
For his, like, he just traded his life for us, and that he chose us, and that's it. That's all we need. That's it. Is that he paid the price. He bought us
Yeah.
at a price, and yet we still go and
Try to fill it with worldly things.
Yeah, it's like buying something broken. Like who does that? Like who buys a broken table? Like nobody. But Jesus knew like Jesus cared for us so much that even when we're broken and like we're cooked, disgusting.
Yeah.
We are literally a crappy table and he still decided to buy us. And that's just so beautiful that Jesus, the most perfect man in the world, like ever. He's perfect. He decided to buy a crappy broken table.
Yeah.
You read it. A bunch of $8 billion
Yeah.
crappy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, after that, like, no panic attacks, no more anxiety, no more, because I was just like, I know who I am, and the closer I kept getting to God, he speaks to me through scripture, because
Yeah.
I'm someone who needs to see it. you know, and that's how he talks to me. So random verses, numbers, letters would pop into my head, and that was him giving me that vision of just like, okay. And he still does that to this day, this morning, last night, all the time. You know, he's like, okay, here it is, because he knows better than to give me a dream, because then I start like freaking out about it. So he shows me it in the words so I can go back to it and be like, okay, you know. And so when he said like, also Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart, rely not on your own understanding. My whole entire life, I went trying to understand everything. Why people did what they did. Why this, why this, why that, why me? Why? I was trying to, and I was killing myself trying to understand why. And then he shows me that verse, and I was like, it's because I'm not meant to understand, because sometimes you're not meant to understand, you're just meant to trust. And trusting is so hard, because even to this day I'm like, oh, I'm trusting God, and then I'm still holding on to something. I'm still like tethering that little string, you know. And it's like, you have to cut that, you just have to go.
Yeah. And it's like what your dad says. He says, put all your like, what is it?
Put it on the fire.
Yeah, put it all in the fire. Put it all in the fire. Cause if it's bad, it'll melt. God. But if God is if it's there for a reason, he'll refine it. Yes. Yep. He'll make it better.
Yeah. And like with abandonment, with getting closer to God, comes stripping you of people.
Yep.
And as people who deal with abandonment, getting closer to God meant losing people. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't want it. I was like, nope. So I would get close, and then he would take someone away. And I was like, I don't want you anymore, because I was so used to having people around me, because I would friends, you know, I'd build like such deep, strong connections with people. And I was like, okay, like you need to be, like, you need to stay there. But like, as I got older and as I started understanding, like he says in 1 John 2:19, like if they left the churches, it's because they were never meant to be there in the first place. And I was like,
But it's also like God will take people away, but he'll also bring new people that like
Yep.
they
Yes.
have their eye on the prize. They
Yes.
want what you want.
Yep.
You will see them in heaven. So it's like, why be hanging around with your earthly friends when you can hang out with your godly friends that you'll see in heaven, like you'll see forever.
People that are walking the same path as you.
Yes.
You know, like they're leading
Yeah.
you to God, not to your destruction.
Like when we came, like when our family we really locked in, like we lost people, we lost family, we lost friends, but now we have you guys, we have the Bible study people, we have so many more like friends that like we were looking for, but now like we were just, I don't really know how to say it, but we basically found the people we already had, but they were Jesus followers and Jesus chasers. Yeah.
yeah. And I just think about that saying, like, God never sends a storm without refuge. So every time he sent a storm, he never left me alone. Like, I was never alone. And so I just think about every time that I lost someone, he didn't, like, immediately, okay, here's the new person. It was, like, over
Yeah.
time, like, you know, there were people that would come into my life, like my roommate. Literally love my roommate, because I would not be here if it wasn't for her. Because I remember, like, I had so many questions, because like I said, I was someone who wanted to understand everything. And she's like, okay, but you're not meant to know everything. You know, you can't know everything. And I was just like, okay. And so I think after that was when I was like, okay, God, like literally, Jesus, take the wheel, because I got so tired of trying to understand everything, and I was literally sucking the life out of myself trying to understand, that I was just like, okay, God, like you take control, you take the wheel. And I mean, into this day right now, like I'm kind of just like, I don't worry about tomorrow, I don't worry about anything, because I know that I can make a plan, but if it's not what he has planned, then it's going to get destroyed, and that's okay. And I've learned to be okay with things failing and people walking away, because I'm growing. And growing means outgrowing people.
Yeah.
And as people who hold on to people, like that was the hardest thing, you know, to comprehend, to accept, was that growing means outgrowing people. Is that God is gonna, he will never take the most perfect person out of your life. So someone that I thought was like perfect, this is it, this is the one, and he obviously didn't turn out to be the one, just means when God puts my person in my life, I can't imagine what that's going to be like. Because if I thought this was it, I can't imagine what it's going to be like, you know? And that's the trust that I have in him. And so the world tells you, like, when you go through things, like, you know, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, you know, because I trust God.
Okay.
Okay.
So whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Can you ask the question again?
How did your struggle with abandonment, depression, and anxiety start?
I would say it was very progressive. Like everything happened from the ages of like probably 6 or 7 to like to like 14, 15. So it was a really long time, but I would say growing up, I was the outcast in my family. My dad was in the military, so he wasn't really home all that much. He was always working, which I understood. Like I was never like, I was never mad. Yeah, I would never held that against him, because obviously like he's in the military, like he's fighting for our country. You know, how could I
Yeah.
be? But I remember during those deployments, I was so lonely, being like 6 years old, you know, because my mom made my older sister her idol. She had to nurture her, she had to take care of her, almost like my sister became like my mom's husband, essentially, because my dad was in deployments. My dad was working. And so I became like their kid, and I've always loved my dad. So during his deployments, I had like a leapfrog or a leap pad. I don't know if y'all like know what that is, but I
yeah.
thought like I could send him videos on that. So I would make videos like, Dad, like, I miss you. When are you coming home? Like, I was so sad all the time when I was little. And my mom and my sister, it was just like, I was like a dog that they were just carrying around, like on a little leash. So fast forward like a few years, like right before COVID, my dad got a job overseas. He retired and he got a job overseas. He didn't want to go, but my mom made him go. And I remember I felt like, why are you leaving me? Why are you leaving me when you're the only person that I truly have? You know? And then he left January of 2020, and then COVID hit. And that was like horrible, because then like my dad leaving, because my dad has always protected me. He's done the most that he could to protect me from the manipulation from my mom. So when he left, it was like, oh, like she could do whatever she wanted with me. Her and my sister could do whatever she wanted with me. My sister were 3.5 years apart, so it's a pretty good age gap. And so it all started of I was just suddenly a bad kid. I had behavioral issues apparently, and I don't remember ever being like that. I was always someone who was bubbly. I was always I was essentially like the glue of my family. You know, like when everyone was upset, I made sure every single one of my family was okay. But they never did that for me. So the abandonment started even before anyone made the choice to actually leave me. So eventually, like in that year or that time frame of COVID, I got really lonely, and it wasn't bad yet necessarily, because I was 12. I had just turned 12. And my 12th birthday, that was rough. It was my first birthday without my dad. And even that birthday, like my mom made me feel like, my mom never wanted me to have nice things. She never let me like get new clothes, get new toys, nothing. And it was all hand-me-downs. It was all your sister, your sister, your sister, and you're lower. So that birthday, my dad had bought me AirPods, and she was like, well, you can't use them. You have to, she bought me like cheap headphones, and I was like, okay. And my dad was, I didn't have him anymore to be like, no, like, Sophia gets this. Like, like he's the one who remembered me in my family, if that makes sense, who made me feel seen. So once he left, I didn't have that anymore. So it got really lonely and I got really sad and I got really like, what am I supposed to do? I didn't have anybody. I didn't have that person to be like, hey, like, let's go get food. Like, spend time with me. Like, my dad, when I was little, like, he'd always tickle me because it always made me feel better when my mom would yell at me at like 6 years old. So again, during COVID, like it just got bad. And I remember like my mom said that I was a bad kid. She was like, you're a bad kid. Like I'm a horrible mother because look at you. Look at how you turned out. And I remember just like crying. Like I just wanted to get out of there. You know, I was 12 years old. And I remember she separated me from my family. She didn't let my dad speak to his side of the family, which is my cousin. So I didn't have anybody. And my sister was so okay with all of this, you know? And so my mom, she frowned upon everyone else that wasn't us. Like she put this facade of our family that we were like perfect, that everything was okay. So when I was this bad kid, she was like, I'm going to go send you with your cousins because it's like a circus over there. And I remember being like, a circus? Like clowns, animals? Like, what are you saying to me, you know? So that was, my parents were still married at this point. We're still together. And I remember during online school, she picked a fight with me. And I think that was the same fight, telling me that I was a horrible kid. And like my teacher called on me and was like, hey, like, where are you? And she yelled at me and was like, get behind that camera. What are you doing? Why are you like this? Why are you crying? Like just yelling at me, you know? And I remember I was just so like sad, so scared, so lonely. Cause I mean, I grew up Christian, you know? So my mom was definitely like that, oh my gosh, like, Jesus saves, and just like the social media, that we go to church and all we listen to is Christian music, watching VeggieTales all the time. Like that's what I wasn't allowed to watch Disney Junior, you know, like I wasn't allowed to watch any of that, which she had her reasons, obviously. Like there's some shows that I'm like, okay, but I was very sheltered as a kid. Like I was very like, I was almost like a doll. I was like their doll that they got to do whatever they wanted to. They dressed me however they wanted. And I say they because her and my sister. Your hair had to look like this. You had to wear these kind of clothes, you know. And then in elementary, I even started getting bullied for how I was dressing. But I didn't dare to say anything to my mom. You know, like I wasn't like, Mom, like I was very quiet. It started like affecting me. I started like drawing back. Well, then my parents got into like marital problems. In June on Father's Day, I woke up and I heard my parents, because my dad was still overseas, I heard my parents yelling and I heard like that it was over. And I went over to my sister's bed and we were watching online church, and I remember just trying to act like nothing was happening because that's how I was raised. That everything's fine, that don't tell anybody, that our life is perfect. Everyone needs to think we're perfect. So that's how it was for me. Well, I remember we were in a drive-through and she asked me, she was like, do you love me? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, no matter what. And in that moment, I knew what was happening. I knew that my life as I knew it was over, that my family was gone. And I was just like, I remember just like, at that moment, I had to be holding her up. Because if I cried, if I crumbled, so would she. And my sister was there, but my sister, she's always just been angry. She's just been angry. And I couldn't let that happen. You know, I couldn't see my mom and my sister like crumble in front of me, you know? So I just was like, yes, like I'm always going to love you. Well, then the fight started and all the lies being told of my dad started. And I remember being like, this can't be true. You know, like, yeah, they would fight, but I'm like, my dad, he's always been my dad, you know? Like, I knew the lies that they were telling me weren't true. Even though they tried so hard to condition my brain, to manipulate me, to leave me out, to do all of that, I knew it wasn't true. And they hated that. They hated that I wouldn't conform to their lies and to their manipulation. So after I found out that they were splitting, my mom, she had a friend. She had a friend, and she was like, for 4th of July, it's actually funny. My mom's very high allergic to grass. And when my dad left, he was like, you're not cutting the grass. So he hired this man. And this man ended up becoming the friend, which I caught on to this before, like, my parents separated. I was like, because he had come to the door to ask for the payment, and I saw something in his eyes the way he looked at my mom. And I was like, Mom, be careful. She's like, never, like, I would never, right? And I'm like, and now I'm like, okay, you would, right? But I didn't think anything of it because my mom was still with my dad. And she told me that this man was married and had a kid. He wasn't married. He had a kid, but she lied to me. She lied to me. And so anyways, fast forward, like, all these pieces I had in my head, but they didn't get put together until way later. So anyways, like, we go 4th of July, like, this friend, and I'm like, where's his wife? You know, like, I don't see a wife. I don't see a kid. I'm just confused. I'm like, what is going on, you know? And I remember, like, once I found my parents were splitting, like, I would have dreams that they were still together. I would, like, it was like a nightmare, you know, that I just wanted to wake up from so badly. And then I would wake up and be like, ugh, like, my mom has this man, this friend. So that 4th of July, I remember he lived in these apartments, and we were in the pool, and me and my sister, and they were all, like, touchy, and I was like, what the, you know, like, what is happening here? And my sister, so it was like this, like, I was facing this way and they were, like, behind. Well, she, like, spun me around so that she was on this side and I was this side so that I wouldn't see. And I was so, like, what the heck? Like, they're literally, like plotting, like, so that I wouldn't, yeah, working together. And it started like before this, because this is when I first was introduced to this man that I knew. Well, before that, when my mom was still with my dad, she would say to my dad, oh, like, this friend is going through a divorce, like, I'm gonna go hang out with her. And she would go at night, and then it started becoming every single night. And I remember, for some reason, when I was sleeping, like, because I would go to bed early, you know, I was young. When I was sleeping, I felt that she wasn't in the house. I felt that she never came home. And I remember, and how I lived, every night, my parents would tuck me in. Every night, you know? So not having that anymore, I was like, what the heck? Like, you know? And she would tell me that she'd come in the middle of the night. Well, one night, I was like, okay. I woke up super early at like 6:57 in the morning, and I went downstairs and I was watching TV. She comes in through the garage at like 7:15. And she's like, I went to go get you tacos. Bruh, really? Like, come on, you know? And these tacos were a regular. And I'm like, but you leave every single night. And that's when I felt like my mom is leaving me. Like, that was the physical, like, you're leaving me. I've always been someone who's like, I get very attached. I've always been someone who, if I love you, I love you, you know? So for my own mother to be doing this, it was like, what the heck? And I was never a dumb kid. Like, for me, being 12 years old and piecing all this together, and like, and I know that was God. I know that was God telling me the truth and was like, no, like, get up, you know? And I knew that. Well, I didn't know that at the time, but like he's shown that to me. Well, eventually I had to just get used to it. I had to get used to this man, even though obviously I didn't want to. Well, my mom with my dad and my sister, they were like, we don't want to talk to you. We want nothing to do with you. And I remember it was my turn to talk to my dad. So I had to sit in front of that camera and I had to tell my dad that I didn't want to talk to him anymore because she was sitting behind the tablet saying, I need time. Tell him that you don't want to talk to him. So I had to tell my dad that at 12 years old. And that like broke me because my dad has always been like my best friend. And I left him. I abandoned my dad. And that was something that was so hard. So once that happened, my mom was able to do, again, whatever she wanted because she didn't have to worry about me saying anything to my dad. I didn't have a phone, you know? My sister had a phone. My sister had all these things. I didn't have anything. I mean, now I know she was probably like she was going to communicate with him. Well, she made me feel like my dad wanted nothing to do with me. She told me that my dad didn't even want a second kid. And I found out later she's the one who didn't want a second kid. So that abandonment started even like way, way before when I was like a baby. And it just got really hard. And I remember I just was forced into this. And I finally got a phone that Christmas. And it was like they had to watch me because they thought of me as someone who was so like, I guess, sort of promiscuous at 12 years old. At 12 years old that I was doing things and I was like, that was hurtful because I've always been someone who's just been so loving and so bubbly, but they twisted that and they made me feel like I was someone who was just like dirty, you know? And I remember like during their relationship, I wasn't okay with it and I made it evident. Like I've always had my faces that like, if I don't like you, you kind of know. And that's how it was with that man. And I remember my mom got so angry at me because she said that he was going to leave her. And I used to play the guitar. And I was 12. I tried to write like an apology song for her. So I went to show her and she was like, I don't want it. Leave me alone. Like, you're the reason my relationship is ruined. And then she told me, you're the reason that me and your dad are getting a divorce. And I was like, so I didn't touch that guitar ever again. I stopped playing the guitar because I was like, no, like I don't want this. It was just a bad memory, you know? And so fast forward later, like my dad comes home in January of 2021. Well, that Christmas, my mom was like, see, your dad didn't call you. He doesn't want anything to do with you. And I was like, and that hurt, you know, because that was my dad. I didn't know what happened. I was like, I so badly wanted to just tell him, like, Dad, like, I was forced. Like, I didn't want to stop talking to you, you know? So fast forward to when he came back, I was like, when he walked through that garage door, like, I just, like, melted. Like, I was just so happy to see my dad, you know, because it felt like when he would deploy. And that was so hard for me when I was a little girl, you know, like, seeing her dad, and I felt like that again. And I remember my sister and my mom just standing and just, like mean mugging us, you know, like, what are, like, you know, like, just being, like, hateful, like, their eyes were, like, and I didn't care. I was like, this is my dad. He's home. Like, he's back. And he wanted to take me and my sister out to dinner. And they were like, no, you go. Go, Sophia. Both of them. And I was like, fine, you know. Like, you don't have to tell me twice. So I went and we talked. And my dad told me that he met somebody. And I was like, okay, like, you know, like, if I'm okay with my mom, then I guess I got to be okay with my dad. I just wanted my dad to be happy. That's all I wanted. So my 13th birthday comes around, and that was, my sister has always been someone to make everything about her, you know? They've never been like my sister. Like, I would do anything for my sister. She's never been like that. So she's always, in a way, I've got that abandonment from her too. On one of my birthdays, she chose her friend's birthday over mine. So it was people from a young age making decisions to leave. You know, first it was my dad deploying, then it was my mom at these with this man, then it was my sister with these things, and it was just like, why is nobody choosing me? Like, what is wrong with me? So my 13th birthday comes around and I have these friends over, and I later found out that these friends didn't even want to come to my party, but they just did because, oh, we're going ice skating for her birthday. So they used me, essentially, you know? And these friends, we went ice skating and they all hung out with my sister, all of them. And I remember being like, well, this sucks, you know? And I found this girl, her name was Olive, and she was like, hi, I'm Olive. And she was skating around with me because she saw that I was by myself. And I was like, that hurt, you know? And I was so mad at my sister, but my sister's never been one to accept her faults. You know, it's always just been like, well, you suck. Sorry that no one likes you, you know? And I'm like, bruh, so anyways, fast forward to spring break. Well, we went back to school, right? The week before we, spring break happened, that Friday, and then spring break was next week. I remember these girls, they were just mad at me, and I remember they were like, that's why your dad left you. And I was like tears and tears. I was like, I'm done. I don't want any of this. I'm just tired of always being bullied of how I look, because I dressed I was in 6th, 7th grade, and I literally had a French braid in my hair. I literally would wear shirts with you know, those girly purple shirts with the unicorns, the bow ties, and polka dot skirts with striped leggings and twinkle toes. That's how I dressed. I literally was a Mexican Jojo Siwa. That's literally how I was. So obviously I got made fun of, you know, and I was just but to me, I was never I didn't have the desire to dress how other people dressed. I was just why am I getting made fun of? And eventually I had a conversation with those girls after everything, and they were like, you know, we don't know. You never did anything. We just made fun of you. And I was like, bruh, you know, but anyways, so that spring break, I was supposed to go with my mom's side of the family in California, but my dad was also leaving to live with my tia and my grandma, my cousins, and then I wanted to spend time with him. So I went with him. You know, we flew together, and I went, and I had such a good time being around family. I hadn't seen my cousin in so long because my mom didn't let me talk to any. It was you are isolated, you know? So I felt like my family had abandoned me, but she did that. And it wasn't even okay, I'm going to do that and now you're mine. It was she also abandoned me. Yeah. So it was just why are you just making everyone leave me, you know? Well, I had such a good time, and I was supposed to go over to my mom's side, and we were having such a good time that I didn't want to go. And she was like, just stay. And I was like, you know what? Fine. So I stayed, and I remember my mom calling me well, my sister took off of work and you need to go over there. And my dad was like, no, this is what Sophia wants. So I was like, okay, you know, I'm having a good time. So I stayed. In the end of spring break, I had to go back. And I remember, I don't know what the moment was that I was I'm done. But I told my mom, or I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, I want to live with you. And I was 13, so I could make that choice. And so he was like, okay. So I went back to school for a day, and those girls were just nagging at me, and I was like, I'm done with this, you know? It was just another factor of why I wanted to go. Well, it was a day of school, a weekend, a day of school, and I was on the next flight to California. But I remember my mom packing my things up. I remember she was just crying, don't leave, right? But she let me leave. She she didn't fight for me. She wasn't like, stay. Like, no, like, what the heck? You're out of your mind. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure out. No, it wasn't that. It was just like, no, like, as I'm packing your bags, no, don't leave. No, don't go. As you're like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's like almost, I was just like, okay, like, okay, you don't want me to go, but you're letting me go. And so from there stemmed the nobody wants me, you know, like, just go. And so I went, and when I came back, my dad left to Mexico with his new girlfriend, and he brought her back. And I really tried to like her and to, you know, like, be okay, like, and still be that bubbly, loving, glue family person. I tried. I couldn't. I could not. Like, this person was like, oh my gosh, like, it was like bad, you know? And from there, that's where the real abandonment from my dad came, is when he chose this person over me. He chose this person over me, and I was like, what the heck? Like, the only person who's always chosen me my whole life chose somebody else. But that was my mom's fault, because she made me stop talking to him. So my dad thought I abandoned him, which wasn't the case. So obviously, and I don't blame him, because what else were you supposed to do? You didn't have anyone. You didn't have your kids. You didn't have your wife, you know? And obviously that's how the enemy works. He puts things in your life. And I was like, and I was a kid, but he didn't know any of this of me. He really thought that my mom turned me, but it wasn't like that. I was like, no, my dad is not like that. My dad would not do this. We didn't know any of that. So I get there and I'm like, what the heck? Like, why are you here, lady? You know? And I remember like trying and everything, but it just like, I couldn't, because like, I didn't like her. Like, she just wasn't a good person. Well, it became like, she was like almost my dad's everything.
Yeah.
And I was nothing. And it was like really hard. And I was like, what? So I went back that summer to come visit my mom. So I moved around March. Summer, I came. Well, my sister was in California at the same time visiting my mom's side of the family. And I went too. And that was a horrible mistake. They filled my head with so many lies. And my dad was still with this person at this time. And I remember, like, I was like, it was really dark. It was a really dark place. There's something like, I felt something like overtake me, you know? And I was just filled with so much hurt, so much anger, so much abandonment. And I just became like sad. And I remember being like, I always fluctuated. Like, my dad loves me, my dad hates me. My mom loves me, my mom hates me. It was very like one or the other I had issues with. And so eventually that summer I was with my mom, and I'm someone who like makes timelines. And I've always been like that. I make timelines, right? And my mom was like telling me about this man, right? And she was like, yeah, like, you know, like, he got me flowers for my birthday the previous year, because this was June. And she meant like the previous year, like when. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, wait. But in my head, I'm like, but I found out that they were separating in June. And so did my dad. And I was like, what the heck, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it started like piecing together. Everything started piecing together. And I was like, that's weird. And then I remember one day in October, it just hit me. All of it, my whole timeline just finally pieced together when I was on a video call with my therapist. It all like clicked. That my mom was cheating, that when she said she was going with that friend, she was spending the night with him, that she was orchestrating all of this. And at that time when I was living with my mom during COVID, she had a secret phone. And I already knew they were separated, but she had this secret phone, but then it pieced together who it was, who this man was. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? So I told my dad, and obviously, like, oh, and this woman, this person that he was with was already out of the picture in August when I started 8th grade. But that in the time that she was there, my heart was filled with so much hurt and anger that in my head, I already pushed my dad away. I was like, you pushed me away, well, I'm going to do it back to you. So that's what happened. But I felt like I owed him the truth to tell him what happened with my mom because she was sucking the life out of him still. The money and this and the benefits and that. And I was like, that's not fair. She treated me like crap and she's doing the same thing to my dad. So I was like, I have to tell him. Like, no matter how much hurt I'm feeling, I had to do what was right. So I did, and I told him, and obviously, like, you take out your anger on the people you're closest to. So it was like, how could you let this happen, Sophia? And I'm like, what? Like 13 years old, you know? And I fell like deep. I was so mad at my mom. I was so mad at my dad for blaming me after I thought I had just done something that was right. Well, that's when I started like finding friends. And I met this one girl, and she was also going through a lot, and she was like, oh, I do this. Like, I get really sad. I don't know what to do. Well, I self-harm. And I remember going home one day, and I was like, is that going to work for me? And so I did it, and it did. It helped. It just distracted from the pain. It distracted from everything that was going on. And I essentially blocked everybody out. Everybody that tried to help me. And because I didn't see it as help, you know? Because it wasn't. It was like, hey, what are you doing? This, you know? It's like, well, stop doing this and stop doing that. And, you know, I didn't want that because it wasn't gentle love. It wasn't that. And I was like, don't talk to me like that. And I just shut everyone. And there wasn't enough patience. We were all going through things that there wasn't enough patience to be like, hey, like, come on, like, talk to me. It was just like, fine, you don't want to listen? Do whatever you want. And I was like, okay. Like, so in the bathroom for hours, and nobody, like, where is she? And it was like, fine, like, kind of the same thing. Like, if no one's noticing that I'm gone, you know? And it was just like this, like, depression that I fell into. Like, I didn't want anything else. I didn't want anyone else. And I was like, God, like, you're real, but you abandoned me. You also left me. You let my family fall apart. You let my mom leave me. You let my dad choose this woman. So I don't want you either. So abandonment led to the devil becoming my best friend. He was my comfort. He was my, well, here's this. Here's self-harm. Here's the sad music. Here's these people who are going to lead you in a wrong path. And I was like, okay, it's something. Because I needed to feel something. I needed to fill that void. Well, I just didn't have good friends, you know. There was times that things would happen and I would run away. I would literally leave the house. And no one, like, looked for me, you know. And maybe they did, but to me, no one did, you know. Like, everyone was, like, fine, you know. I didn't have my mom in the picture. You know, my dad, I was just so mad at him that even though he was trying, I didn't want it because I was like, you're too late. You didn't try when I really needed you. When I left my family for you, you chose something over me. And it was like he made that decision to choose someone else. My mom made that decision to walk away and to pick another man over her children, over me. So I was like, fine, I'm going to pick anything else over you guys. So I did, and I fell into this, like, deep depression. And me and my cousin, we shared a room, and she was going on with her own things as well, and so was I. And so we got in this fight on my 14th birthday. On my 14th birthday, we got in this fight because she didn't say happy birthday to me. No one acknowledged my birthday. Me and my cousin, he's on the 12th, I'm on the 13th. they threw his party on my birthday. And they threw all his party, and on his birthday too, he also had a small party. He had 2 parties. And they had him a cake. All the decorations were for him. Everything was for him. And I got a cupcake. And that broke my heart. And because my 13th birthday wasn't good either. My sister stole that attention, and so did my cousin. And so I was like, why? Why is everybody else but me? When I was the one who would hold things together, when I was the one who was happy, when I was the one who did everything that everyone wanted. And it was like, no, nobody wanted Sophia. And that hurt. That hurt because I grew up like that. That's how my life was. But because like I didn't have that innocence anymore, it grew into darkness. It grew into bitterness and anger and anxiety and depression and hurt. And all of that just like I was bubbling, you know? And so I called my mom on my birthday and I was like, Mom, like, they forgot. And she tells me, she goes, she starts crying and she goes, we bought a cake for you and we're going to eat it to celebrate you. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you like joking? And I remember being so angry that I cried and I went to the park by myself. And I just was walking, you know, didn't care what happened, didn't care if anyone took me. I was like, whatever, you know? So that night on my birthday, we all had a sit down talk. And my cousin, she was just in a dark place. She just didn't care, you know? And so I was like, fine. So when we lived in the same room, we shared a room, you know? Well, I was in middle school, she was in high school. Our school started at different times. She had softball after school, and I didn't do anything, you know? I just rotted pretty much. So it was pretty easy to avoid each other. And we didn't eat family dinners. I mean, I didn't eat. I fell into this depression where I just didn't want to eat. I was just doing my own thing. Well, eventually, I started sleeping in the living room. And that was probably the worst mistake in my life because I was sulking in that couch. Like, I became that couch. Like, I was always there. I was always in my thoughts. I was always in my depression. It was bad. It was a really, like, dark, hurtful place that I was just like, just thinking, like, you know, like how the enemy throws things at you and he's just like, you know, but I didn't see that as bad, you know. I found comfort in it. It was like I needed that. And so it just got really dark and deep that, you know, I fell in with the wrong friends and those friends ended up betraying me and I didn't know what to do. I just got super lonely. I got super sad and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm done. Like, what's the point of this life anymore? But I know, like, obviously there's a reason that it didn't come to that, you know, and eventually, 8th grade ended. Well, my dad started getting everything together. My dad was like, okay, like, I want Christ, you know? So I was like, okay, you know? So we moved back to Texas. And we went back to Texas. And everything that happened with my mom, how I stopped talking to her, all that went away. Something happened where my heart was starting to soften again towards people, but not in a good way. More in a, I'm going to let you walk all over me. So I was just like glad to be back with a woman, you know, because that motherly love isn't something that I've been accustomed to. So it's been very hard for me to let women in, as in like older like mother figures. So I just like went to my mom and she was like she was good at first, you know, but then the manipulation started and the you pick your dad over me and all the, you know, divorce stuff. It was just like, and it just got really tiring. Well, I started my freshman year at this school, and it was a really bad school. Like, I should not have been there. It was a really bad school. And I remember I met in November or December, somewhere around there. I met my stepmom. It was at a Friendsgiving. And I remember that she they were doing a prayer, right? Because my dad was back in the church. He was like doing really good. He's back in the church and they were doing this prayer. And I didn't know that they were praying for my dad. I walk out of the room and they all look at me and he's telling the part where I'm in this part. And I'm like, why is everyone looking at me, you know? And I remember like my stepmom, she asked if anyone needed prayer. And I remember I felt like, go up, say something. So I did. And I remember she came up to me, she touched me, and she goes, I can tell that you haven't had a motherly hug in a long time. And I like lost it, like tears, like, you know, just tears everywhere. And I remember like, I was like God showed himself to me a little bit again. And I was like, what the heck? Like after all the darkness I was in, after everything, like there's still some hope. Well, my freshman year, I started getting bullied by this girl for no reason. So like all these bullies were literally for no reason. But this bullying was like bad, you know, like I'm going to go to your house and like blow you up, like stuff like that. And I remember that depression fell right back into it, like to the point where I couldn't get out of bed, my own bed. Like I wouldn't even be on my phone. Like I wouldn't even be like scrolling. Like it was just like sadness that I was just in. And I remember the self-harm came back. And my dad would try to get me to clean my room, do this, do that, do this. I could not. Like I was so like oppressed that I couldn't. I was like what's going on, you know? And it was a really like rough spot for me and my dad because he was trying, but I wasn't. I was like, I'm done, you know, like, and so, eventually, you know, my dad and my stepmom began in a relationship and I was like, well, no, like, I don't want to get left again. I don't want to be replaced again, you know, because I had already gone through that. But my freshman year, I got into a relationship and that became that void that I was filling. You know, because I needed something. I mean, I didn't want that darkness anymore because I did start coming back to church in when we came back here. But I still used something to fill that void, you know? So I started using that, but I just was so lost. And the way I had no business being in a relationship because I wasn't dealing with what was going on inside of my heart. The hurt and everything that happened in California, I wasn't dealing with that. Mm-hmm. So you reflect that. You reflect those things and you take it out on the people closest to you. So I was doing that. And it was like that wasn't okay. You know, like just because I was dealing through things, I didn't mean that I had to take that out on other people. And I also did that to my dad, even though he was trying. So eventually I was like, okay, like I got more into this church thing. I got more into God, you know, because I was like, something needs to change. You know, like I don't want to feel like this anymore. And meeting my stepmom, she was feeding me in all the right ways. She was giving me guidance, you know, but I kept her at a distance. I was like, okay, you can give me guidance, but don't get too close to me. So I went to this like teen conference at our old church and I remember I decided to get baptized because I was like, okay, God, like, I'm serious about you. And that March, that was in March and of 2021 or no, 2022, somewhere around there. And that was the last time that I had self-harmed. And I was like, okay, like, I don't want this anymore, you know, like, I was doing better. Well, obviously, like, I would still struggle, and then later that May of my freshman year, me and that person like ended, and it was like the typical, oh my gosh, my life is over, which obviously wasn't. Like it wasn't like this person wasn't really an idol, it was more like a comfort. Well, then I was like starting to have to face things, and I was still going over to my mom's house, and that was just horrible. Like every time I would have to leave to her house, like my dad didn't want me to go because he was starting to see what she was doing to me, but I didn't care. Like I was just like, whatever, it's my mom. Yeah. So that title of like, it's my mom, I would cling on to that. I would hold on to that. And it killed my dad to see me like that, you know? But him telling me, no, don't go, no, this is bad for you, it's the same as like, you say no, well, I'm going to keep doing it. That's what was going on. And I still didn't feel like I had the best relationship with my dad, so it was almost like I was seeking refuge somewhere, like I needed something, you know? And so after that, I did start seeing it with my mom. I started seeing it little by little because when I would come home on Sunday nights, like, it was like a completely different person. I was just like angry, sad, you know, like just mad at everybody. And my dad and my stepmom were like, bro, what happened to you, you know? But it was because of this thing that like had hold of me, my mom, you know? Eventually I started seeing it, and then going into my sophomore year, that September, I went to a deliverance conference, and I felt God. I felt that God was real. I felt him, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I want you, but I wasn't ready to let the things of the world go. I wasn't ready. It was like, I want you, but like, you know, like, well, these things and these people and all this, and so I wasn't ready to let it go. And I was still allowing my mom feed all these things into me. And the thing is, like, being in contact with my mom, like, she's just such a negative person that I can't have both. Like, I can't, it's an open door. I can't have God and her. Like, I can't. It's like one or the other. And eventually I was like, I want God, you know? And so all this, then my anxiety started going away because I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was like 14, 15 when I came back to Texas. And I was on anxiety meds. And I remember when I would like go like a week without taking them, they brought me to a depression. And I was like, that's weird, you know? But then when I met my stepmom, she prayed over me. And I haven't really felt anxiety since then. So that's kind of where the whole, like, the power you give it is true. It really is. So anyways, fast forward, like, my eyes started opening to all these things, you know? But then I also started realizing that in friendships, because of the way I let my mom treat me, like, back to going when I was little, how I was, like, just, like, trying to get everyone to stay. I became a people pleaser.
Yeah.
So I was trying to please everybody and all these friends and everything, and it just drained me. It just left me like, ugh, you know? But I had God again, so it was like something was like, no, you can't be doing this. Like, you need to get away from this. And so I was like, so then my eyes opened, I would say this past January, and because this past Christmas break, like, I was at my mom's house because it was like the every other holiday, and I was there, and my sister was there. So she was there, and I remember telling her, like, I don't want to talk about God with you. Like, she thinks that I'm too religious, that I'm too much. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever. Because at this point, I'm getting better. I'm getting like, okay, like, God's trying to work with me, but I wasn't letting my mom go. And he's like, you need to let her go. And so that's Christmas break. It was like, that was my final straw. Yeah. After so many years, like, that's what it took to be like, because they would gang up on me like they did when I was little. And at this point, I was like, what do you guys want from me? Like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm done. And so our church did a fasting in January, and I remember, like, God was leading me to cut this off, to cut the communication. So I met up with her and my mom, and I told her, look, Mom, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't come over. I can't spend days with you. Like, it's hard. I'm like, I love you. Like, I just have a lot of hurt. And she's like, I'm your mother. Like, you can't. Like, I'm like, I'm about to be 17 years old at this time. I can make my own decisions, you know? She's like, well, we're going to do therapy and family therapy. Where's that therapy? She didn't do anything. Like, she would always, it was just talk and talk and talk to have that control. She just wanted control over me. She just wanted control over my dad. Because if she was affecting me, she was still affecting him. So I was like her little pawn to try and get to him, you know? And so I was like, no, like I don't want this anymore. But I was seeing it. My parents had to let me see it because them telling me was just pushing me away, you know. But then I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not good. And getting closer to God, I remember being like, and then later, like during one of the Bible studies, my dad read the verse, those who do not hate mother, father, sister, brother, are not worthy of me. And that finally like hit me. And I was like, what the heck? Like, do I want my mom more than I want God? And then everything started turning into perspective for me of like, she didn't want me, right? But God did. God wanted me in all of this. You know, like he took me out of California. He is the one who encountered my dad to take me out. He's the one who's been protecting me my entire life. He's the one who protected my brain from this poison. And it finally was like, okay, like you may leave and you may leave and you may leave, but God's never going to leave me. So when I felt like he abandoned me, I abandoned him. It's the same thing that happened with my dad, that I'm the one that shut him out. That people were like, no, like this and that. And even friends in California, they didn't believe in God. So it was almost the same thing that my mom did to me with my dad. Other people had me do with God. And so it started putting everything into a perspective for me. And this past June is when I finally, like my mom would still text me. My mom would still this. And I texted her and I was like, look, Mom, like I love you, but I can't, like I need God. I can't do this with you anymore. Like you're so like wishy-washy. I was like, I'm no one to judge your faith. I was like, but I can't do this around you anymore. You can't, you know, like you have to separate yourself from people. And God, someone that God took away from me was my mom. And that was hard because it's your mom, you know, I didn't want to let her go. But then I started realizing that the titles mean nothing. You know, like titles are just titles. Like God is God, and that's the greatest title that he can have. He is your husband, your wife, your mother, your father. He is that. And so once I started to like realize like everything everyone was saying about me, and I started finding my value in him, and that I am a child of God, and that I am worthy of him, and that I am enough for him, then everybody else didn't matter. So he started taking out all these people, and he replaced them with so many good people in my life. Like my stepmom, like I don't know what I would do without her. You know, the relationship that I have with my dad is great. Like I love my dad. Like I have my dad back, you know, and it's just something that's just so like beautiful. And like finally letting go of feeling people, like of filling that void with people. God's like, okay, like you're filling yourself with me. Here are people for you that are going to lead you the right way. People that show me love, who show me patience, who are like, okay, I love you, but God loves you more. Yeah. Those kind of people. And I was just like, okay. And like this March is when I was finally like, okay, God, like, you know, I got a flip phone. I got a flip phone in March, and I didn't have the distractions of social media, of people, of all that. And so I was like, okay, God, I have a flip phone now. And so I would spend my time with God, and he speaks to me in dreams. He speaks to me in thoughts. And it was just let go of these things, like let it go, like obey me. And I was like, what else am I going to do, you know? And he spoke to me through someone who told me, get off the boat. And I was like, okay, I hear you, you know, like, so I got off the boat. And I was like, okay, like, I'm yours, God. Like, I don't, like, you have delivered me from so much. That dark girl who was on the couch, that's no longer who I am anymore, because all that abandonment, it's like, God's like, I will never abandon you. I will never leave you nor forsake you, you know? So it's just, it's been a lot of time, and there are still things that, like, you still have to deal with and stuff, but once you are letting him deal with you, it's just, it's so beautiful, and it's so like refreshing. Yeah. You know, it's like he is the living water. You won't be thirsty anymore, and that's how it feels. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like what you're saying is like God's always there for you. Like through thick and thin, he's always there waiting for you. Like when you're ready, he's there. He's not gonna be like, well, you were kind of gone for 13 years, so I'm kind of done with you.
Yeah.
He's never like that. He's always knocking on the door, waiting for you to come back. He's like the prodigal son. He's always there, waiting with open arms for you to come back to him.
Yeah.
And he will never be like, well, nah, you took too long. No,
Yeah.
I'm done. He'll never do that to you. So you can't be scared, and you just have to make that step.
So, piggybacking off the thought of like when you mentioned like her whole birthday fiasco, like I'm thinking about that now, and like I don't know why it just hit me. Like I was so mad at her because her dad was pursuing her so hard, like trying so hard, and like she said she didn't want it, and I was so mad at her, mad at my uncle, because I was like, you have someone that wants you, you have someone that is actively pursuing you, trying to be there for you, and you are turning that away, and that's where that hate came from. That's where like I want that. I was jealous of her, but like thinking about it now, like I used to hate her. Like, and she used to hate me. Like, it was like if you knew us when we lived together, like, part of God hardening my heart and softening it was I could hold grudges. Like if I was mad at you, like, even if you lived in my room, I wouldn't talk to her. I went like a month like that. Like, if you did me dirty, like, you were written off. So now that I think of it, though, like, her and I went through the same thing, different fonts. Like, and we are so powerful together because together, like, we be rebuking demons, like literally, because we are so powerful together. And now that I think of it, like, that was the devil trying to take me away from her, because when we got delivered from all this, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, we went through the same thing. Like, in that moment, if her and I would have just talked, like, I'm pretty sure that I could have helped her and she could have helped me. But that was the devil just right there, because anxiety, depression, and the abandonment, I was mad at her because you had what I didn't have, and she was mad at me because I had the relationship with my mom. Like, we each had what we both wanted, so we were jealous of each other. It was jealousy, and it's just like, and that's the devil. That's right there, because he kept us away from each other. She was in my room, and I wouldn't talk to her. Imagine if I would have just talked to her and been like, hey, what are you going through? Imagine if she was like, hey, what are you going through? We'd be like, oh, it's the same thing. Like, but we never did that until now. Until 19 freaking, 4 years later? 4 years later, we're like,
Yeah, she was 15. I was 13, and now she's 19, and I'm 17 years old. Like, but everything had to happen the way it did because, like, God shows his glory and everything he can do through all of that, So it's like, it's so, like, amazing. Like, I'm like, so, like, people who really feel like this is it, like, it's not. Like, you're not. Like, it's not. Like, you just surrender. He's there. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have your life. I wasn't perfect. I was deep. I was deep in my depression. The devil was my best friend, and now I hate him. Like, now I'm like, I want nothing to do with you, because God is so good, and he restores, and he brings people that were already in your life, and it's amazing. So, yeah.
Okay, we're back into our from our break. So they talked about their experience and their, how it all sort of comes and how it started and how this sort of has developed. And we're going to go into almost like the spiritual side of things. And not to say if you're dealing with depression or anxiety and like it's 100% a demon, but there is definitely in the realm of spiritual warfare and how the devil works and the demons that roam, like, it's very real. And most people are like oblivious to it. So, Lila has a story that she would like to share about that, and about how it's taken hold into her life. And so,
yeah. So when I mentioned, like, I gave it authority, it's like, okay, so what's it? It is more like a spirit of anxiety, of fear, of all of these things, right? And so I did do therapy. I had so many therapists. I never went on meds. I never medicated because I didn't want to do that to myself. But I did, I went to therapists, like, I talked to people, like, I with anxiety, like I did what you were supposed to do, but I just never medicated, right? And like for her, it's a different story because she did medicate. But for me, that's just like, I went to therapy, I talked about it, got through it, got over it, and it's like, okay, so why is it that after like years of therapy, like in school, like there was always like, I don't know if you guys see like funny TikToks where they're like, come on, let's go color. Like that was me. I was that kid getting pulled out to go do therapy, like at school,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
That happened to me
I
once.
have been in therapy my entire life, and it was like, so why am I 17 still dealing with all this? And so talking, just learning about more, diving into the word, hearing from people who have dealt with it, hearing other people's testimonies, I was like, okay. So recently, like, and I mean recent as in like last night, I have been dealing with a lot of stuff at home. And it's a lot of things that, like, I was like, okay, God, like, you need to reveal yourself to me. You need to take off these glasses. You need to take things out of my ears. Like, you need to show me the truth, right? And with that came everything just revealing itself to me all at once. And I was like, okay. And so what do you do with it? You deal with it, because I'm done sweeping under the rug, because that's what I've been taught. I have been taught to sweep things under the rug. We have been taught that it's just everything's fine, everything's cool, like, and then you're like 12, like panicking about the stupidest thing ever because that's what we've been taught. And it's
Yeah.
just like you just sweep everything under the rug. So nothing is ever gone. You have to deal with it because it is still there
Yeah.
because you still give it right. You just because you forgot about it doesn't mean that it's still not there because they like to hide, you know? And so, talking about my deliverance that I just went through last night, it started with just me seeing things differently, seeing my mom in a different way that I have
Yeah.
never seen her before. It started with like, I love my mom, and like, don't get me wrong, like, it has always been me and her, but that's the problem, is that it was always me and her. We went through so much with my dad, with the custody, like, I was my mom's, like, I'm her daughter, I'm her, her baby girl, like, I went through everything because she let it happen in a way, because she made that decision, and so we formed this soul tie, and it was more like I was like my mom's little minion, I felt like I love my mom because she helped me get out of stuff with my dad. Like, she was there for me,
Yeah.
but then it was like, I started seeing things differently because God started showing me things, and it's like, that's my mom. And that's where my abandonment issues came in of, if I start seeing my mom for things that she's doing that aren't right, and I say something about it, she's going to get upset. And so in my head, I'm like, I can't say anything because I'm going to lose my mom, and it's like, I already lost my dad. I don't have a relationship with my dad. So I was like, so it's my mom now. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to lose my mom. And so coming here, talking about all this stuff, having all this anxiety, having all this stuff, I was like, it needs to get out because I have been fed so many things from grandma, from my mom, from my dad, from everyone, because since I was little, going through a custody battle at 6 years old, like, you're fed all these things in through one ear, out through the, and those are my gates. My gates are my ears because people talk to me, because my grandma, talks to me, grandma talks to me, dad talks to me, mom talks to me, stepdad talked to me, everyone talked to me, my aunts, like, everyone would try to brainwash me. Everything was through my ears. And so, talking about what happened with me with this deliverance, I went through therapy. I tried so hard to talk about it, to get through it. And like 2 nights ago, it was like, it started just with like ringing in my ear. It started with like really bad ringing in my ear. And I was like, ow, like, and it's my right ear. It hurts really bad. And, soul ties are created. It's not just through sex. It's through, a lot of things. Like, sorry, that's a lot, it's created through a lot of different things with people that you don't even know, but they are created. And, when you do that, you are inviting those things into you and you are giving them right over you. So things that I have been through, they came into me, and that was anxiety. And I tried to get rid of it. I did everything right. I tried, and it still wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like, there's something more. There's a piece that I am missing, And so back to what happened, I started seeing things, talking to my uncle, talking to my aunt, and it was just like things started connecting a lot. And it was just in this week, I was just hit like a truck, literally hit like a truck. And just everything just pieced together. And so I'm in the shower, weird place. And I was talking to my aunt. She's like, you need to start breaking soul ties. And how do you do that? You say it out loud. I break the soul tie with, you say their name. And I'm in the
In the
shower.
name of Jesus.
Yeah, like in the name of Jesus, I seal it with the
Oh, I
blood
know
of Jesus
Jesus.
Christ. Like, like you start saying that and you use that person's name that you're breaking that tie with. And so I'm in the shower and I was like, because I still didn't believe. I like even still seeing everything, I was still like, nah. I was like, that's weird. Like I'm just cooked because I have anxiety. Like it's not real. This was like literally 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
And I'm in the shower and I'm like, I'm gonna give it a try. So I was like in the shower, okay, God, like I cut the soul tie with, someone, and like anything that they gave me, I give it back. I don't want it. Anything that I gave them, like I send it to the fiery pits of hell. I don't want it. And the louder that I got, like I rebuke it. I don't want it. My ear started ringing and it started hurting and it started hurting down to my jaw. And I just remember hearing in my head, say your mom. Like, say your mom, break that tie with your mom. And I was like, I don't want to. I can't break it with my mom because cutting that means that like I have to step away from that. I have to stop being her little minion. And so I'm sitting there and I say your mom, say your mom. And like now I know like that was the Holy Spirit telling me your mom, your mom. And I didn't want to. So I didn't say her name. And I got out of the shower, ran and got my cousin, and I was like, I'm scared, because I didn't know what was happening, because it hurt, and I was like, this is all real. So she ends up praying for me, and as she's praying for me, she's like rebuking stuff off of me, like I rebuke it, and she doesn't remember what she said because she was like overtaken by the Holy Spirit, just leading, hearing God's voice, helping me through this. And I just remember feeling like it felt like lava was coming out of my ear. Like when you get water in your ear and you're laying down and you feel it come out, it felt like that. And I was like, eh. And her hand started getting hot. And in my head, what I've been taught and also just what I think is if I don't acknowledge something, it's not happening. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to acknowledge that my ear is on fire right now. So I didn't say anything until she's done praying and she's like, my hand is hot. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, my ear's hot too. And then she lays down because she's like sleeping in my bed and she looks at me and she's like, oh. And I was like, what do you mean, oh? And she's like, my ear is hot. And it was her left ear that was bright red and it was really hot. And I was like, And so, yeah, but hot is good. Hot, that is the Holy Spirit burning whatever I had in there. But that was when I knew, like, there's more. There was more, and that was just the beginning because God knows what you can handle. He knows what you can handle. He's gentle, and I am a very sensitive person. And so he knew that I couldn't handle this all at once. So it was piece by piece, little by little, that things started clicking, things started happening like that.
Yeah.
So last night, I like... So back to last night, we do church here. Like she said, she had mentioned my uncle does church here. Like it's just like a beautiful group of people. Like it's so different because you can literally feel the Holy Spirit moving here. It's just like, it's insane. It's like something that I've never felt before because I'm the first one out of my family to be like, okay, God, work in me. Because everyone else at home is like, yeah, no. And so I'm the first one that's like, okay, God, like I'm here. And so I want this, but I knew that with this came spiritual warfare, came all like the ugly, because to get cleansed, you have to go through the fire. You have to experience all the ugly to get pretty again, And so my uncle's praying and he starts rebuking generational curses. And I start getting nauseous and I start crying and I was like, oh. So so I grabbed my cousin because she's been the person for me that's been helping me through all of this because the girl that I once hated and like literally wanted dead, like she is now here helping me, and that's God because like I said, I held grudges and he softened my heart and he was like, you need her. Like, I needed her, like, because she has taught me so many, don't look at me. Like, she has taught me so many things. And like,
this person that I saw literally the life being sucked out of her in California, like seeing her now, I'm just like you can see it moving in her, and like I felt stuck, and I was like, I need your help. And so when she's like, rebuking this stuff off of me, I was like, oh my gosh, like you are literally like the person that I never had, because no one ever asked me if I was okay. No one ever asked me like, what's going on. It was just sweep it under the rug. So when she would talk to me, it was like, it was biblical advice. It was this, it was that. And like the person that I once hated, like she's not that anymore. Like she's my little sister, like she's not my cousin. She's not like just like my uncle's daughter. Like she is my baby sister. Like I would do anything for her, because I love her, because she has done so much for me. And so, talking about, this deliverance and stuff, like, I'm like, something's wrong. Like, I feel like I'm about to throw up. And I was like, and she's like, So we run upstairs, and I'm like panic attacking. Remember, haven't had a panic attack since August. And I'm like, she's praying over me, and she starts rebuking stuff off me. And it got worse. And I was like, I'm about to throw up, And I had a panic attack, and I remember I was frozen. I was stuck behind the door, and I was stuck. My jaw was like, it almost felt like it was shut. My spine was shut, and I remember I was like, you need to go get your mom. You need to go. So she goes and gets her, and she comes in the room, and she's like, you need to sit down. And I just remember I could like, it felt like my body was like tingling, and I couldn't move. Like it was like I was stuck. So they moved me to the chair, and my aunt starts like rebuking it off of me or something, and then I can hear her, and it's like I start shaking, like my feet are tingling, my arms are tingling, my mouth is tingling, and it's like she starts breaking all these things off of me, and it literally, like I started like spitting up phlegm. It's not like creepy, like this is not like no like conjuring stuff, like this is not like exorcism, like this is not what they make in the movies, like this is like, it's not that dramatic, but I'm dramatic, so it was very very dramatic, because I started crying. And so I'm like spitting up like all this stuff as she's rebuking it off of me, and we're like, okay, we think we're done, right, after 20 minutes or whatever, and we're like, okay, and we're good. And then my ear starts ringing, and my aunt looks at me, and she's like, did you break the soul tie with your mom? And I was like, no. And she's like, are you ready? And I was like, I can't keep living like this. I can't keep living in fear and anxiety, being someone's little minion, keep, like supporting things. Like, I can't, because God is like, you need to get delivered. You can't do this anymore. Because, like I said, my siblings, I don't want them to be stuck. I don't want them to be 18 years old coming to Christ. Like, and not that that's a bad thing, but it's like, if I had known the things that I know now, like, and yes, it was part of God's plan, but I just wish that I knew more. And so, she's like, did you break it with your mom? I was like, no. And so she starts, she's like, repeat after me. And I was like, okay. So I start repeating after her. And then sure enough, it was just like, this just like, it just like fell out of my ear. And then my ear started hurting down to my jaw. And I just felt my head go like this, like to come out. And and then she was like, get off of her, you have no right. And in my head, I'm just like, please leave me alone. Like get out, like I don't want you anymore. And it's like, and it wouldn't leave, and I could feel it like tugging, like it felt like something like was tugging on my ear. And my aunt and her, she'd, get out, get off. And in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, this is so real. And so it finally came out. And then she's like, okay, like, do you think that's it? And I was like, I don't think so. And she's like, your grandma, did you break the soul tie with your grandma? Because my grandma has lived with me since I was born. My grandma practically raised me, because mom was always busy. Like, my mom wasn't a bad mom, but she's just like, she loves us, and she works a lot. She was busy. She was always doing stuff for us. So grandma raised us. So I've lived with my grandma. So I do have a soul tie with my grandma. She was like, my aunt was like, did you break the soul tie with your grandma? And I was like, no. She's like, do you think you have one? And I was like, yeah. And so with my grandma, removing that one, it almost felt like my mom was like the filling of everything, like almost like a balloon, and like just like the filling. But my grandma, like that one felt like it was like my whole head. It felt like I felt my head go like this, and it felt like it was like almost like a balloon being like pulled out.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And it didn't hurt as bad, but it was just like, because my grandma raised me, like it almost was like she was the shelter I had above me. Like, you know, she was the covering of everything, and my mom was the one filling the balloon, which is almost what it felt like, you know? And I was sitting there and like, you know, like, and that was it. Like everything had broken. And after that, like, it was just like, now once you are free, once you are delivered, once everything is gone, it's just like you have to work to close those doors, because doors are everywhere. It's what you see, what you hear, what you touch, things that you do. And I didn't believe in any of this stuff. I was just like, spirits of what? I was
Yeah.
like, you know, like being told like, oh, you like, you know, that's a spirit of something. I was like, goodbye. Like, I don't want to hear about that stuff, you know? But it's like when you experience it, you hear about it. And it wasn't until I literally, like, this week started seeing things, I was just like, oh, you know? But it was just like literally, you know? But it was just like, God delivered me from that, and He knew what I could handle. And so as everything's coming out, like, it's just like I literally feel new. Like I literally just feel like it felt like this weight was lifted off of my shoulders, and it was just like manipulation. It felt like it was stuck on my head like a cap, because everything went through my ears. And so like I just like, you have to break that tie. You have to break that tie with people. Like even the smallest things, like they are doors. They are doors, and mine were my ears, because since I was little, I was being back and forth and back and forth. And so like I guess like my advice to you is like to not like, I wouldn't even know. It's like to believe, because things are so much realer than we like, you know, than we make it. And it's like, it's literally like in the Bible, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's literally like there's scripture for it. And like, you know, like if you want to share that.
Yeah, and it's like multiple times Jesus goes and he's casting out demons, and you can just read that in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you'll find so many stories. But even down, and it's not just people, like you can be a Christian and have a demon. And so that was like something I learned recently, and even Raphael, he talked about that on the other podcast that we did. And so we'll go through here in Luke chapter 4, verses 33 to 37. It says, "In the synagogue there was a man possessed by a demon, an impure spirit. He cried out at the top of his voice, 'Go away, what do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God.'" But in that, he says, in the synagogue, so essentially where they were doing where their church was. And there was a man possessed by a demon. Anyways, he says, "Be quiet." Jesus said sternly, "Come out of him." Then the demon threw the man down before them all and came out without injuring him. All the people were amazed and said to each other, "What words these are! With authority and power he gives order to impure spirits, and they come out." And the news about him spread throughout the surrounding area. So that's pretty much it. But it just goes to show it's very real. It's very the doors is going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain like how like, what are open doors? Because a lot of people are like, well, how do I open a door? Like, what am I doing unconsciously that can be opening a door? Yeah. So
That's like she was saying, like everything that you watch, the music you listen to, the actions that you're doing, the things that you're allowing, and you know, all your like gates, you know, like a lot of those things are very like open doors, you know, like you think like, oh, I don't know, a kiss is innocent, you know, other things come with that. It's not
Yeah.
just, and you know, it's things that you have to be careful about. Oh, it's just a horror movie. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's things that come with that and stuff. So, yeah, it's just important to be careful. And even like the music that you listen to, like artists, like secular artists, like the lyrics that are being, yeah, you're singing it. You're like, oh, party, drugs, all these things, and you think it's just a catchy song until you notice the behavior in yourself, and that's open doors.
Like that's what the devil, like, you know, like that's what the devil is. It's entertainment. It's like, you know, like like you're singing these like, oh, catchy songs, but it's like, have you ever really paid attention to what you're
you're
singing
saying.
over yourself? Because
like in Christianity, like we do worship too because we're singing that over ourselves. So you're doing the same thing with secular music.
Because worship, you're bringing in the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think you're doing with secular music? You know? And that's something like from my testimony as well, like that music that I was listening to kept me where I was. So it's like that's also important.
And like even just on the way over here, we're listening to like one of the like old TikTok songs we used to listen to, like those trendy ones. And then we're like we're listening to lyrics. I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like, Brandon, just stop playing that like that.
Yeah.
Not that it's like crazy bad, but it was just not the best. And
Yeah. I feel like once you come to Christ, even things that were like you would let slide,
Yeah.
you can't let slide anymore because you're like, wait a minute.
oh
Yeah. Yeah.
And even in Ezekiel, it talks about how what the devil was made of. Like when he was in heaven, in like being an angel, like an angel in heaven or whatever, before he like rebelled.
The jewels and everything. And
Yeah, and he was made with like harps and like or pipes and things like that.
just read that.
And so he was some people believe like or commonly believe like that he was a worship leader.
Yeah.
And so he still likes music, is what I heard.
That like he was in charge of worship and
Yeah.
entertainment in heaven. And obviously, I mean, it's like, it's just perverted here on earth.
Exactly.
None of this was to scare anyone. Do not be scared because I mean,
It's not a it's
it's like
fear.
because I
It's
know
like-
when I was going through it, I was like, what the? But it was not anything to be scared of because
up the
when
spirit
you
of fear.
realize that you have
spirit of fear.
like Christ in you, I have authority over them, and and this didn't hit me till this morning because up until last night I was still shaking in my boots, but
Yeah.
like I realized like. Why do they hide? Why do we hide? Because we're scared. So why do you think that when we're rebuking these things, they're hiding? Because they're scared. They're scared of, when you plead the blood of Jesus Christ, like, I am a child of God. You have no authority over me, and like when you think you're over stuff, you're really not because you have to admit it. You have to admit the things there's so many things that we bury deep down inside, but it is in there. Trust me. And that's where it hides and you have to get it out. Like, you don't bury your feelings. Don't, no matter how much you feel like, oh, okay, no, it's whatever. Like you need to acknowledge it now because it will eat you alive.
Yeah.
It's in 2 Timothy.
Okay. In 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, it says, "For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline."
Like,
And that's like the authority that we have in Christ is to literally go to hell. Like literally, like I was saying that in the shower, like go to hell. And that's when I just felt my ear just like,
Yeah.
and it's just like because they don't want to go there because they found a home in me because I let it sit there for so long.
And the whole one second, okay. The whole open doors thing is just it's just an analogy, pretty much, or it's like it's real because you're opening yourself up to the things of the world, to the demons, to it all. In Ephesians chapter 4, I think verse 27, it says, "Do not let the devil get a foothold." And so when you start making compromises, say it's just a song, it's just a movie, it's just a thing, it's like basically you have a door and you've bolted it shut, and then as you start to, it's like, okay, that's not bad. You start unlocking it, open the door, and then boom, the devil walks in. And so that's the whole, like, don't let him get a foothold. So you just keep it shut and you don't touch it.
There's one like little, he can just fling that door open, it's just like,
Yeah.
it's
Sophie said this once where, like, once you have something like that, stuff comes in and you can't control what comes in. Like, literally, like, it's just like,
yeah.
It's an
Gino
open
said, like,
door.
yeah, once you open that door, like, it's just music, it's just this.
You can't
But
push
then,
the dogs.
yep, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Like, it
Yeah.
might look cute, but like, it's your soul, man. Like, you're literally freaking.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes to show, like, it's never too late. I just got baptized, just learned this week, and, like, I'm still learning, still growing, still everything. Like, you're not stuck where you are, because I thought I was stuck. I thought I was just like, oh, well, I'm cooked forever. Like, generational curse. But it's just like, no. Like, there is a generational curse in my family that stems from abandonment, and it's seen in grandma, mom, like my uncle, my cousin, like it's all surrounding our family. It's this generational curse of, okay, well, you left me, so I'm going to leave you, but I'm going to find someone else to fill this. So like, like, and then leave them. And it's just like this chain of abandonment that like we were taught, like, okay, go fill it with something, go fill it with someone. And it's just like God is like, no, like I'm right here.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Because it can end with you.
Yeah.
You can end it. It doesn't have to remain in your generation. You can stop it at, like, I'm not doing this anymore because I found God, and that's way better because He's never going to abandon me. So why am I going to ever abandon anyone else? So,
And you need to be the one to end that
yep.
chain, because like
Yeah.
a chain doesn't stop until it stops.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
Someone
end. Yeah.
stops it,
So
yeah.
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 So you can't just be like, well, maybe my son will stop it.
No.
You need to be the one to stop it. Maybe my brother will stop it. No, I need to be the one to stop it.
Yeah. And like I said, like I am the oldest. My family, like my siblings are like literally my pride and joy. And I don't like live for them, but like I live to be an example for them. And I pray that right now, like I've been praying that like something happened in my family, that whatever is going on, that like I got out, like everything got removed from me, like some like my brother's next. And it was just like this morning, literally 6 a.m., like I want to know God. And I was like,
Which is actually 4 a.m. over there.
yeah.
So
You know.
I woke up in the morning. It was like,
And it's just, middle of the night. And I'm just like, and then like that's literally God. And so I sat there and I told him everything that I said. And he was like, okay. He's like I want to do it. He's like, and it's just like, why? Because I broke that. God waited until I was delivered from everything that I had to be able to share my testimony, to be like, you know what, guys? Like, just because grandma thinks she's stuck, just because my mom thinks she's stuck, doesn't mean that we're stuck, because we are not them. Like, I am myself. My walk with God is my own, yes, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to share what happened to me just because I'm scared, because that fear is from the devil. That fear is what wants to keep me stuck there. And go to hell. You don't have no right over me.
Yeah.
And so that's what this all was. This is sharing of a testimony.
So we'll get into the encouragement for people that are struggling with depression, anxiety, abandonment. What are some verses or things that God has revealed to you that comforted you as you grew closer to Him, that would comfort somebody else watching?
I would definitely say the first verse that was shared with me that really like got me, like kind of opened my eyes, was 1 Peter 5:7, which is cast your anxieties on Him, for He cares for you. Because what got me was that He cares for you. And it's like there's someone who does care, that I can give it to Him. So that sort of like comforted me and was like, okay, like what got me like going back to God. So
Yeah, for me it's Proverbs 3:5, which says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, depend not on your own understanding. And I think for me as a little girl, and just even now, sometimes trying to understand everything, like I was told, stop trying to understand everything and just trust, and like once I started trusting God, it was just like everything started piecing together, but I have to let go of certain things because they're a block in my head, in my mind, in my heart. And like God starts showing you things when you start softening your heart. And I know, like, because I was so guarded and I was so angry, like one of the things that I asked God, I was like, can you soften my heart? And now I don't have hate for anyone, even people that like I hated before. I'm just like, I look at them and I'm like, I love you, because God has softened my heart. And I remember like going through my breakup, going through the idolization, like, being stripped of everything. I was like, why do I feel so weak? Because I wasn't like this. I used to be like, okay, you did this to me. Bye. I'm strong enough. I don't need you. But it was like when I was stripped of it, it was because God was softening my heart. And I just remember crying outside in my backyard. And I was just like, why did you do this to me? I was like, and I was so mad at God because why am I so weak? Why am I crying at everything? And it was because I could hear Him. And I don't hear Him very often. He shows me in scripture and I could hear Him. He was like, because you love like me now. Because even while they were crucifying Jesus, He was still
loved. He still loved everyone. And then like it's in John. Sorry, everyone. It's in here somewhere. I know. Very. In John 15:18, it says, if the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. You know, like we're not meant to be here. Like we are meant to be hated because they don't want us here. Because who owns the world? The devil. You know, so when we're talking about this stuff, when I talk about it to my family and they look at me like I miss my morning meds, what do you think it is? Because they're mad, because I'm pissing it off, because I am the light in my family, you know, and like, and yeah. What?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So very well known verse. Well, this is like what you have to say to the like you need to stop like knowing stuff. You just need to trust God. Very popular verse, Psalms 119, verse 105. It says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light unto my path."
Yeah.
How God, He's a lamp. He's not like the sun. He's a lamp because He needs you to trust every step you take. Because
Yeah.
a lamp doesn't fill up a whole room. It does a little bit.
Yep.
So every step that you take, you need to just trust God. Every step.
Because he shows you step by step. Because if you saw everything, then you'd be like, oh, I got it, you know? But if it's like little by little, you have to trust
you have
him.
to trust Him.
Another verse is Philippians 4. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. So I think that one is just like, it's really all about putting your trust in Him, and like, you know, you have to pray for things, and He's gonna, you know, He might not always answer your prayer when you expect it to, because it's sometimes not in His plan. He's like, hold on, like this is what you need right now, and this will come later. You know, so it's really important to keep that in mind, that it's not like, not everything happens like boom, 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 you know, it's like a process, because he teaches us things through our seasons, through these things, but He's always with us. So.
And you get to, you grow closer, like you, to God. And that's like, the relationship is like all the trials really is just how you grow closer. In Psalms, in Psalms 23, is that very popular, of course, Psalms is, as he talks about, give me 1 second. Psalms 23, he goes, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along right paths for His name's sake. And then he goes, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And in this passage here, there's a pronoun change in which he goes, He refreshes my soul. He guides me for His name's sake. And so he's talking about God. But when he goes through the valley, it says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, he says, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And this is where he comes to know God for himself. So not just about him, but personally. And so through the trials, through the struggles, through the things that you're working through, it's so that you get to the point of, it's you and me, God. That's it. And that's all I need.
Yeah. And I think like talking about this last night, like her and I, like, you know, we sat down, we were looking at verses, and like one that we like both had like looked at was 1 John 2:19. It says, these people left our churches, but they never really belonged with us. Otherwise, they would have stayed with us. When they left, it proved that they did not belong with us. And I think that both of us dealing with abandonment, it just like God brings people into our lives because sometimes they're just meant to be a lesson. Sometimes they're meant to almost hurt us to the point where we have nothing. But in that moment where we have nothing, it's like God is right there. And so I think that like just with everything that we've been through, like, yes, we lost people, but that's because they were never meant to stay. And He didn't just take them away and then we were just like left with nothing. Like, you know, like for me, like I got, you know, all these things taken away from me, but like look at the community that I have, you know, that I've built in just like a week. And like that wasn't me, that was God. You know, like you're like it's just like it's crazy, you know, because you think you have nothing, but really you have everything. You just have to you have to let it go.
Yeah.
You have to surrender
Yeah.
it.
The enemy tells us lies, like you said, like you guys were filled with like the lies that you're not good enough, you're not. And so if we could find some scriptures that counteract that, so that way we know who we are in God and what He says, so we can combat the lies of the enemy with the truth that comes from the Word of God. If you have anything like that or anything you want to say, then we can close
Yeah.
up here.
So for that, actually, he showed me John 15, 16. It says, you chose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit so that the Father will give you whatever you ask using my name. And so I just think about like he chose me, and that's all that mattered, is that I didn't need anything else. I didn't need anyone else because I was worthy, because he chose me even when I was like, I don't want you, I don't need you, I'm okay. Like I really wasn't okay, and he chose me. And I think that like reading through like how he was crucified, it's just like he just talks about like all these things that it was just like for me, like, and when I realized like I am worthy of that, like, and it says like in John, what is this? John 16:22. So you have sorrow now, but I will see you again. Then you will rejoice, and no one can rob you of that joy. And it's just like I am worthy. Like he picked me, and like if people are telling you don't belong here, you don't belong here, and you feel like you don't belong, praise God, because we don't belong here. It literally says it. John 17:14. I've given them your word, and the world hates them because they do not belong to the world, just as I do not belong to the world. We don't belong here. So if you don't belong and you feel that, good, go with that. Go read a Bible. Go do something. Ask God to reveal himself to you, because he will, because you don't belong here. And I used to look at that as a negative. But now I'm just like, when people tell me, oh, you're too much, you talk about God, I was like, oh, like, let me stop,
Yeah.
And then it was just like, wait a minute. Like, you're trying to silence me. Why? Like, I don't know, like, but it was just like, praise God that I'm annoying you with God. Like, good, because we don't belong here. I have something written down. It says, fear loses power when you remember God is always with you, and that came from Joshua 1:9. That says, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So courage doesn't mean being fearless, it just means trusting God. And everything, like, it all comes back for me to Proverbs 35, which is trust in the Lord with all your heart. He wants your heart. That's all he wants, because he knows. And it's just like you have to give him that and be willing to give that up, and I just think, like, I wrote down, like, when God calls you into a new season or challenge, he also gives you the strength and direction to succeed. Like, he will never put you in a situation and be like, okay, figure it out. Like, when they throw babies in the pool and they're like, it's not that. Is he gives us a direction, he gives us a path, and like you just have to be trusting. And like that's just something really big for me, was that verse.
No, this is like a question. It's for you.
Oh,
Do you have anything like, or for all you guys? Do you guys have anything for like, for people to know that when you come to Christ, it's not just all gonna be sunshine and rainbows. Like it will, like you will still be going through stuff, but
Yeah, it talks about that in James, like, I think it's like the first verse, like about trials, how it produces perseverance. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So I think it's like, and then, like, yeah, you face trials, but now you have God by your side.
yeah.
Because then it continues to say that if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously.
so life will be hard, but now you have someone to lean to that will never leave your side, and you'll always have someone to go to, no matter, even if the people that you came out of aren't, he will always be with you.
And then there's James, it's verse 12. of chapter 1. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. So it's in all this, and I mean, you receive so much by trusting him and loving him, and it's something that,
And enduring.
Yeah.
Patiently enduring the testing and temptation. Keyword enduring. Enduring means sticking when it gets hard, sticking when you want to give up and run away. Like, that's because you've done things and he's cleaning you, he's cleansing you. Like, and you have to patiently endure that.
yeah, because you have to walk it back, like you have to deal with your stuff, but at this point you're not dealing with it alone anymore. You have God. So, yeah.
Oh, in John 10, 28, he says 25, or he's just talking about his sheep, and 27, we'll start in 27. He says, my sheep listen to my voice, I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. And so going with that, like God shows you, and he has you in his hands, and it doesn't mean like, this isn't to say once saved, always saved, because you can still step outside of the
Yeah.
covering of God. But this is like, God will always, like, you're always welcome to the hand of God, and he has you in there, and nothing can snatch you out of it. You can go choose to walk away, but essentially, if you're with God, he will never leave you nor forsake you. And that's Deuteronomy 31 something. Deuteronomy 31:6. Or maybe it is, but he says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you.
What is that?
Deuteronomy 31:6. Or he probably says it multiple times. Well, anything else you guys got? No. Ready? We're good? Well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for talking with us. I mean, this is awesome. This is pretty fun. I don't know. Yeah?
Yeah.
You guys had a good...
We apologize for the long yap sesh.
Yeah.
We're both yappers.
But yeah, maybe they'll come back and we'll do a few more episodes. Maybe. We'll see. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys, got something out of it. I'll just pray real fast, and then we'll be done. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for the podcast, and thank you for bringing us together. I just pray again for anybody that's watching that is dealing with the depression, anxiety, abandonment, that you're there and that they come to know you and realize that you are with them, and that when they put you first, that's the best thing, because if everything in this world, it comes and goes, but you never leave and you remain the same. And so I pray for anybody watching. I pray for everybody here. That you just continue to work in us. For Sophie, I pray that you just work in her, and continue to work in her, and Lila, just continue to work in them. And as they grow closer to you, I pray that you strengthen their faith, and that you just continue to reveal yourself to them. And then I just pray that your will be done, and that for the podcast and everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Bye-bye.
Toodles.
Wow.
She had to.
Absolutely.